Hey, what's up, all? Thank you for being here. Good crowd tonight. Modus, Dib, and Lisa. So, thank you all. Sorry I was a couple minutes late. Um, yeah, so we'll get to the news of the night. And I wanted to talk a little about Ricky Gervais and the Golden Globes and things like that. But just to let you know, it's kind of been a rough day for me. Not going to get into it, but family member with some health problems. So I was kind of busy with that and with work all day. So I would have liked to have done more today. But in the foreseeable future, I might be helping to work with those health problems. So uh, could affect my output a little. But I'm in good spirits. So here we go. So we're going to start tonight. I guess we'll go back to the Iran stuff just because that's what's in the news. Um, I want to again reiterate that my two big points on this, and that is one, that I think that reasonable people can disagree. You could be someone who's questions whether or not Trump's strategy would lead to some sort of escalation, and you could come away tonight saying, "Oh, Iran attacked our base again in Iraq." It looks like there weren't any casualties of U.S. personnel, and now the Iraqi. Right before I came on, Iraqi's official statement said that there was no Iraqi casualties as well. So I hope that's the case. We'll get to what this possibly means. But you could be worried about that escalation, or you could think that Trump did the right thing because Iran's been pushing and pushing and pushing, and they've been using proxies to attack our interest and attack our troops themselves. Soleimani, for example, they say was responsible for over 600 U.S. service people's deaths. So you could say that there was reasonable to have that kind of counterattack and to take him out. I think that we could have a good discussion on that. I ultimately don't know exactly whether or not this was the best policy or not, and anyone who's telling you that they do know is full of it. There's so much disinformation out there. There's so many factors that we'll just have to wait and see what comes. That doesn't mean we can't talk about it. God knows I run my mouth all the time without knowing exactly what I'm talking about. So, uh, yeah, I heard about that. Clearly clever. Well, at least I saw the reports of it. I wasn't going to talk about it because I couldn't verify. But if that's true, if other people are verifying it, that yeah, it looks like an airplane went down around Tehran, possibly 180 dead, which is terrible if that's the case. No matter how you look at it, it was a commercial flight, so that wouldn't be a military target. I don't care what the nationality of the people on board were. That would be particularly heinous, whether it's an accident or uh, an attack. So my first take is just that reasonable people could disagree. But the second take, and I think it's the most important take, is, as I said in my last live stream on this, that we are left to our own devices because we do not have an intel agency that we could trust, and we do not have a media that we could trust. Period. And that's what causes so much. If we had institutions like that we could trust that were unbiased, then it would be easier for us on the ground to be able to come together on what we think the best policy would be. But because we can't trust them, we're left to our own devices. Like, for example, with this airliner, I don't. Yeah, I mean, if it's verified, it's verified. I haven't. I'll take your word, clearly clever, but I haven't personally. Hey, Cindy, what's up? Take it easy. Uh, so I don't know if it's verified or not, but I'll take your word for it. But for example, let's talk about the counterattack tonight from Iran. So, or I guess just the attack. It hit two sites where U.S. troops are stationed. The U.S. has came out and said they have verified that there weren't any casualties of U.S. personnel. Now, I hope that's the case. But I don't know that that's true. I no longer trust the intel agencies when they speak on matters like that, and I don't trust the media to do a good job independently verifying it. So I don't know. At the same time, Iranian news was apparently reporting that there were U.S. casualties. Now, of course, I don't trust them either. They're going to lie, obviously. But it just goes to show, how do we know? Now the Iraqis are coming out saying, oh, we're verifying that there were no Iraqi casualties. I just don't know. And it's a sad state of affairs that that's the world we live in. Now, yes, you're always going to have your own country's intel kind of spin things to make it look like that particular country is right to their own people. But we can't even trust the intel agencies with intelligence as whether or not we should attack others. And we certainly can't trust our media to do that. The media is nothing more than just mouthpieces for the intel agencies. Now, I go back to something I was talking. I'm not going to rehash everything I talked about in my last live stream that was all about Iran. You can check it out if you want to see kind of my full thoughts on it. But again, one of the things I do is I always assume that the deep state, which would be, I talk about this all the time, the establishment, you have establishment Republicans are in that base too. But definitely the establishment Democrats. You have the intel agencies. You have unelected bureaucrats, such as those you see at the State Department. You have corporate interests and wealthy interests that kind of are in bed with them. Military-industrial complex people. They seem often to lie us into these foreign regime change wars. For example, just take the last administration, Obama with Libya. So it's odd to me that we see a fracture where half these people, you could make the same predictable argument. Oh, it's for oil. Of course, the warmongers want war with Iran. That's what this is about. But then there's also half the people that, in that same warmongering class, the Obama type people, that are actually sending money to Iran. That are constantly defending Iran, even when they commit the most heinous of actions. I said heinous twice. What's up with that? It's weird. Yeah, Dib. I mean, I like Tucker. I think he's wrong on some things, but I think that, he is a good temperament of the middle, and I think he's coming a lot from where I'm coming. I wanted Trump, number one reason I voted for Trump was to out the deep state, the establishment, which he's more than done. It's up to, we'll see if anything's done about it, but no doubt that more than any point in my lifetime, and probably in any point in history, the corruption of the intel agencies, the corruption of the media, how they work with all these people controlling the public narrative, like the entertainment industry, which I'll get to with the Golden Globes, Silicon Valley, academia, all of that corruption's right in our face to see more than any point in history. Whether Trump did it intentionally or just the mere fact that Trump was a potential outsider caused them to out themselves. But the second thing that I think intrigued me about Trump was when he came out in the second debate against Hillary, and he specifically said, why are we in all these foreign regime change wars? Why are we arming militant Islamic extremists against Assad? Shouldn't we be working with Russia to go after ISIS, Al-Nusra, Al-Qaeda, etc.? Yeah, I was absolutely on board with that. So I think Trump's gut feeling is he understands that these quagmires in the Middle East aren't worth getting involved in. Now, here's where, so I get that. I get where Tucker's coming from right on that. And he might be right, and I don't know what my full feelings on this. I certainly don't want to see an escalation to a full-scale war in Iran, but even the most stringent Trump supporters who were celebrating the death of Soleimani, no one wants that. So that's hardly me going out on a limb saying I don't want full-scale war. Of course, no one does. But there's a question to be had, and that is, I will never be a complete pacifist. There's so many people, let's assume the best intentions for a moment, of the people that are criticizing Trump taking out Soleimani. Now, I know, and I will talk about the hypocrisy of those on the left. I definitely will, trust me. But for a moment, let's ignore the hypocrites. Let's ignore the people acting in bad faith. And let's talk about people acting in good faith that really don't want to see an escalation, and that's their criticism. It seems to me that the argument coming from that side is that basically military force is never justified under any circumstance. So, for example, there were people tonight, crazy people that many of which don't like the United States, I feel, or seek, especially because Trump's there, or regardless because of cultural Marxism, think the U.S. is always to blame, and they're always forgiving anyone else, because every other country, such as Iran, they're the victim of the United States, and they're never the aggressor themselves. That's just not true. Both sides could be both aggressors and victims at the same time. That's just reality. There is no totally innocent country that's never done anything aggressive, and one that's always been the aggressor. That's just not the way it works. Of course, there's degrees of it. But let's look at them. So that group tonight was saying, oh, well, the Iran was justified in counterattacking. But then why is it always that it seems like any country to these people is always justified in doing anything attacking any of our interest and troops, but any response from us is considered illegitimate? I mean, you could take this situation with Israel, for example, with Palestine. Israel could be hit with rockets over and over and over again, but when they respond, because they do so more efficiently or more ruthlessly, then they're considered bad people. But if it was your people that were being bombed or attacked or had rockets launched, no matter how effective they were, you would want your country to defend you. And again, I go back to this. We learned our lesson or we should have, from Benghazi. I don't care what you think of. I'm against having a militaristic presence in Iraq. I wanted to pull out of Iraq. I wanted to pull out of Syria. I thought Trump was right to want to do that. I want to pull out of Afghanistan. I think that area of the world is nuts. It does our national interests almost no good to be there. And we're never going to fix it. All we do is create different enemies over and over again. But having said that, we have a duty to our troops that we put in these countries, regardless if we think politically that it makes sense for us to be there or not. Those that volunteered to be in our military, or even in the State Department if you're someone who's stationed in an embassy and not in the military, we have a duty to ensure their safety. That was what was so grotesque about the Obama administration and the Benghazi response. Not only was there no retaliation, there was no response anyways, initially, which led to the death of our service people and people that served our government in Benghazi, paraded through the streets, murdered. So we have to have some sort of response. And I don't get these people that are like, oh, any response would have been an escalation, a provocation to Iran. So then what? Iran wasn't provoking? I haven't seen, and I'm waiting for it. I'm willing to listen to the left on that. I'm willing to listen to the people that I think are arguing in good faith, that think that bombing Soleimani was a bad idea. I haven't heard anyone make the credible argument that Iran wasn't involved with the attack on the embassy. I mean, my research, as much as I could do, granted, by no means am I an austere scholar, right? Like Baghdadi. But my research of it, and admitted being limited, was that the PMF, the People's Mobilization Front, which is kind of a militia group that is backed by Iran, everybody knows it's backed by Iran, was those responsible for the attack on the embassy. So I asked the people on the left, if the United States would back a group that would attack, for example, Iran's embassy in Germany, say, some other country. So if we're arming militants to attack an Iranian embassy in a different country, do you think that that would be considered an act of aggression? Of course they do. Of course your Glenn Greenwalds, your Michael Tracy's, your Aaron Matteys, and these are people I respect, though heavily disagree with on most issues. But I respect that at least they kind of criticized Obama's warmongering, and they've been against the Russiagate stuff and the coup from the intel agency. But where I think they're wrong on this is, if the shoe was on the other foot, and the U.S. did exactly to an Iranian embassy what Iran did to the U.S. embassy, they would say that's a ridiculous aggression towards Iran. Iran would be correct to respond. Now, they might not want Iran to bomb one of our military leaders, but nonetheless, it was an act of aggression. I don't know why. This just keeps reminding me of the Big Lebowski, right? At the beginning, where he's like signing the check. He's buying the half and half. And your H.W. Bush is on, this will not stand. This act of aggression. And then the dude repeats it later. If you haven't watched The Big Lebowski, watch The Big Lebowski. Great movie. So anyways, there had to be some sort of retaliation. And what disgusts me, and I've saw like Paul Joseph Watson, who used to be at InfoWars. I actually like a lot of his stuff. I don't care. Think of me what you will. I don't agree with everything he says. Let me just be clear on that note. There's no one out there that I agree everything with what they say. No one. And you should be the same. You should disagree with me as well, because we're all individuals and we all should think for ourselves. So, but one of the things he said is, look, you could have the position that you didn't favor Trump taking out Soleimani without aggrandizing and glorifying Soleimani or Iran. And what you see is from our moral superiors, not all of them, but many of them, particularly in the entertainment industry, the social justice warriors, the cultural Marxists, they certainly are on Iran's side. They glorify Iran. And it's ironic because all the things they claim to care about as far as progressive nature of things, like gay rights, women rights, and things like that, Iran's certainly worse by far, but not even worth talking about than the United States. Yet they'll cheer it on. And another thing to remember, again, I'm sympathetic to the view that some, if I was in Afghanistan, for example, like, just take this scenario for a minute, indulge me. You're born in Afghanistan. I was born in 1984. So let's say I'm born in Afghanistan in 1984 and to a poor family, and we're working fields, and you have these corrupt warlords, because Afghanistan's kind of like this medieval place where all these warlords reigned in different regions, and they come to the farm and they say, you're going to grow poppy seeds and give us a huge percentage of it, or we'll kill your family. And so that's what me and my family did. And it's terrible and it's horrible, and I hate the Taliban and I hate these warlords. And then the United States comes in, but they end up, I don't know anything about them. They're just this foreign country. And some of my friends and family, even though we didn't like these warlords, they died. I might come away disliking the United States. Now, me and you are from an outside perspective, and we can see that it's not as it would seem to that actual farmer on the field of Afghanistan. But they don't have internet. They don't have access to information like they have. All they know is here's people that don't even speak my language that look different, and they come in, and now people are dying. Even if you still hate the warlords and the Taliban, you might dislike the United States as well, particularly when they stay there for 19, 20 years and things aren't getting better. So I think that sometimes our presence, even if it's well-intended, which oftentimes it's not, I think a lot of these establishment warmongers, like, I don't think Obama was well-intended in Libya. I don't. I think that was about regime change and warmongering and stopping Gaddafi from switching away from the petrodollar. But even if they are well-intended, sometimes it could create animosity. Now, why do I bring that up? Because I'm saying that because this situation, you could say, let's say then you take the tact in Afghanistan, you say, oh, the violence in Afghanistan is in response to the United States. Well, you can't really say that with Iran, because it's not just the United States that they're killing, right? I mean, they butcher their own people, they butcher Buddhist temples, they butcher homosexual, in other words, they're not just going after the U.S. embassy. So the argument, well, these would be peaceful people, it's just the U.S. is provoking them. That's not true. Was Bush worse than Obama? I don't know. I think they basically enacted the exact same foreign policy. In fact, I'll argue that Obama was worse than Bush did. If you're someone who's concerned about these warmongering and the foreign regime change wars, clearly Obama was worse than Bush. Not in that he had more regime change wars or anything like that, or more people died. I'm not even talking about that. Under Bush, there was at least a narrative and a push back against the idea of warmongering. So if you're a neocon, what's the best thing you could have done, right? Oh, geez, our efforts to kind of have all these regime change wars and get ridiculously wealthy, they're falling apart. People are getting upset. I know. Why don't we have the first black president who wins a Nobel Peace Prize push for the exact same type of policies? Remember Bruce Springsteen? Remember all the musicians? Rock against Bush, punk against Bush. Remember the Michael Moores of the world? Remember all of Hollywood? You're starting to see it now. They're coming out of the woodwork again. They couldn't wait. They crave what they had in Vietnam. That's what they crave. But they couldn't do it. They had to be silent for 8 years under Obama. Of course, Afghanistan and Iraq were a joke. Obama continued those policies. He did Libya, Yemen, Syria. My point is, with Bush, there was at least domestic pushback. Obama just continued the exact same type of policies in those exact areas. And all of a sudden, the momentum for the pushback against it was gone because, oh, no, Obama's a good dude. Just ask Bruce Springsteen. Right? Ask all of Hollywood. They'll tell you, Obama's a good dude. He won the Nobel Peace Prize. So his wars must be legitimate. And in that way, it was more dangerous if you're someone who wanted to stop this regime change warmongering. Sure, Bush started it, of course. Well, not even really. I mean, it's been going on for decades, the regime change stuff. But certainly, I'm not I hated Bush. I was a Ron Paul guy. I was against the Iraq war. I thought we should have came home from Afghanistan way sooner. So yeah, I have no love for Bush. I'm just saying, for me, it seems as if Obama was a bigger threat in that not that the wars he started were worse, but because he got it legitimized. So, yeah, Modus, so let's talk about that for a minute. And, excuse me for being a little scatterbrained tonight. Like I said, I did have a family member going through a medical emergency, so normally I prepare a little more, but, well, Dib, I mean, I wouldn't get hyperbolic, a field of glass. That is one thing, coming from rural Pennsylvania, you hear that a lot. Why don't we just nuke Iran? Like, well, no. For obvious reasons, like, you don't want to go that far. But yeah, I mean, your sentiments are correct. Saudi Arabia was by far more responsible than Afghanistan and certainly than Iraq, who had nothing to do with it. No love for Saddam Hussein, I'm just saying he had nothing to do with it. In all accounts where he had animosity and was against bin Laden, for example. So, but yeah, Modus. So let's talk about that. My gut feeling is that Trump also doesn't want to be world police. Like I said, he ran one of the things. Let me put it this way. Let me put it in the reverse way. Trump's gut feeling, I think he should trust it more. I think one of Trump's weak suits is he has, contrary to his claims, appointed people around him that are horrible. Scaramucci, Cohen, Manafort, Bolton, Pompeo. Right? He puts these people around him that are like, oh, you got to trust the intel community. They're career intel community people. They're career warmongering people. And then his gut feeling, right? Like, that's why he let go of Bolton, supposedly. Because his gut feeling's like, nah, I don't want to get involved in this type of crap. And they're constantly like, oh, Mr. President, right? Again, I go back to this. You think I kid you. Go back and look. I was immediately critical of Trump bombing Syria. I took a lot of guff from Trump supporters. I understand. Let me brag about myself for a minute. Understand, 98% of people that follow me, not that I have much of a following, so I can't afford to lose many followers, but 98% I would say of the people that watch me are probably Trump supporters. And so when I put out whole videos like, Trump is absolutely wrong, this is on him bombing Syria, ridiculous, shouldn't have done it, there was no proof that Assad did this, it didn't make sense. I had a lot of Trump supporters tell me, oh, I'm a secret Democrat and this, that. No. I just hope that you understand that I'm going to tell you how I see it. I'll criticize Trump, Republicans, whatever, when I feel necessary. I don't feel the same way here as I did about Syria. Now, it could be warmongering garbage like it was in Syria. But maybe not. I don't know. I admit. So, yeah, and I'm with you, Tim. I think Trump's gut reaction, I think Trump, it's not that Trump doesn't know what's going on, but Trump's got this gut feeling, right? Where he's like, yeah, why are we involved in this? Why are we, like, it's very tough. If you argue with someone who's a very good debater, a very good arguer, he's intelligent, like, listen to a postmodernist. Let me give you one to listen to. I actually think he's an interesting guy. Go look up Slavoj Žižek. He debated Jordan Peterson a while ago. When you hear someone like him talk, it's very difficult to argue against it. It is. Even if you know you're right. I think it's the same with Trump surrounds himself with these people and day in and day out, and you just hear, these fake intel people that only have one agenda. They're against Trump. They are. The agencies are against Trump. But they're constantly telling, oh, we got to do this. 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 Just like me and you. It's a shame that me and you, like I said from the outset, what's my biggest take on this? We don't have an intel agency we trust, and we don't have a media we can trust. Now, Trump's not in the ground in Iran or Iraq, so he has to listen to his people. And so when he can confirm, yes, our embassy was attacked, yes, Iran was responsible, that's the first time he basically took the gloves off. Because remember, when they shot down the drone, he had restraint. He hasn't got us into wars. Like, at this point in Obama's presidency, he was in far more wars. And certainly in Bush's presidency. So Trump's been good on that front. But he knew, just like me, okay, the embassy's attacked. I got that. We're going to respond. So that's what I think. So that's why I question. I don't think Trump wants to be a world police. I think that, so let's talk about Iran's retaliation today. They hit a base, two bases, I believe, in Iraq. But from what I was reading, and again, I didn't do as much research as I should because I had stuff going on, but it sounds like there was a far closer base that would have been a better target closer to Iran that could have hit more U.S. personnel, but they elected to go to a further off base and shoot rockets at. Basically, reading between the lines, it seems as if they specifically chose a target not to inflict the most casualties, but to kind of send a signal, or kind of symbolic, is what they were doing. That's, you would expect that. It's a tricky situation. There's part of me, and probably, and you see this all over, where people, it's like, you attack us, you attack our servicemen, we'll come back at you 1,000 times fold. I'm not saying that's wrong, even. But the way to come to the conclusion to do that needs to be because it's better for the country, not just out of sheer rage. And so you have to be careful to not, find yourself in a situation, because once you give in to rage like that, you allow yourself to be duped. And you allow, the propagandists to tell you, oh man, 9/11 happened. It was Iraq. Better go in there. That's how that happens, because you have this justifiable rage after 9/11 or after U.S. Servicemen are killed. So if I don't want action out of rage. If it's action out of strategicness, and sometimes revenge is not only justified, it's preferable. I mean, yeah, I'm against war with Iran. I understand the case for it. I read this book when I was debating. I forget the guy's name, but it was crazy. He wrote it in his deathbed. Oh, man, it'll come to me. It was called, The Emerging Threat, and it was about China. And basically, this dude's argument was, we should go, he's writing this in 2001, 2002, but this dude's argument was we should go to all-out war with China immediately, before they have the ability to catch up to us. I could see a claim like that with Iran. Now, clearly, Iran's nowhere near catching up to the United States as far as economy, military, etc. But before they get to a point where they could be a real thorn in our side, before they get a nuclear program, there could be a case for, let's just go to war in Iran. I am against that. I think that that's a mistake, that it'll have, every time we do something like that, it has unintended consequences. Then we find ourselves with a new threat in the area. Like Gaddafi, right? We got rid of Gaddafi. How'd that work out? Is it? How do you pronounce your name? Morgus, we'll just say. I don't know. I hear this claim all the time. Well, this is just for oil. Then why was Obama against it? Why are so many of the Democrats against it? Why are so many of the intel people, the Brennans of the world, against it? Why did they want to, instead of propping up oil prices, etc., they were actually appeasing Iran? If all of them were on board and saying, yeah, war with Iran, maybe you'd have a point. But why do they seem to be split? I just don't know. It seems more complicated. Syria, they're all united. Democrats, CNN, Pompeo, Bolton, Brennan, all of them, they're all united. Yeah, screw Assad. Don't pull out of Syria. Keep arming the rebels. Bomb Syria. They were all united. Same with Libya. Same with Iraq. Same with Afghanistan. But it's different with Iran. Why is that? But it wasn't just because Trump just did it. Obama sent them pallets of cash. Why was Obama coaching them in the first place? They weren't on board. They were furious when Trump scrapped the Iran deal. All the Democrats, CNN, New York Times, they were all against Trump scrapping the Iran deal. All of them. There's something weird going on. It's the same with Israel. Like, it has to do a lot with Israel. It's very complicated. There is a faction, like you would, when I was first getting into politics and stuff, coming out of high school, my senior year, 9/11 happened. So when I first get into college, it was a very simple narrative, and I talked about this in my last live stream. The dangers of oversimplifying things, but it was simple. And the narrative was, all of these wars are being pushed by, it's for oil, it's for money, it's military-industrial complex, and there's a lot of truth to a lot of that, but that's what it's all about. It's one unified group. But why are they split when it comes to Iran? And you've started to see this kind of change, right? Like, and the narrative is always, it's the Zionists. It's all on Israel's behalf. But now half the people, and this isn't just university professors and, people in Hollywood, half the people in our CIA, in our intel agencies, in our government, are vehemently against the interest of Israel. You could say justifiably or unjustifiably. I'm not making that claim right now. I'm just saying it's fractured. It's not just a couple of peaceniks like Bernie. And you're seeing widespread left-wing condemnation of Israel. Now, you say what you want. I know that many of these people condemning Israel aren't doing it because, they think Israel's warmongers, and they're not warmongers. You know how I know that? Because I watched them cheer for Obama's wars. I've watched them push us towards conflict with Russia and with Syria. So there's something else going on there. There are a handful of people on the left, and it's not many. It's like 1% to 2% of the people that you could actually see, like the blue checkmark class, that are against the Israeli policies, were against Obama's bombings, etc. So at least they're consistent, even if you disagree with them. But it is very complicated. Yeah, so one of the things that is worth talking about is these... also, just to finish up, Modus, I think that Trump's gut feeling is not to be the world police. But never forget this. Please, please, please do not sacrifice your own integrity or your own beliefs just because you're cheering for your side. Regardless of what we think Trump's gut feeling is, if he surrounds himself with people who have the opposite, who want to be the world police, and he starts enacting policies that push us in that direction, who cares what his gut feeling is? Actions are louder than words. As it is right now, I'm not condemning Trump as far as thinking this was a super terrible thing. I have questions. But this isn't Bush in Iraq or Afghanistan. This isn't Obama in Libya. And never forget, 95% of all the people that are, this is going to start World War III. This is so terrible. Trump's a tyrant for doing this. Never forget, 95% of that crowd had no problem when Obama was doing worse. None. Obama droned and killed a U.S. citizen. Oh yeah, I know, Modus. I know. But I'm just saying, so I think you're right. I don't think Trump wants to be this world police. I think Trump's more, and you see it in most of his actions. Basically, this is all opinion on my point. I think if it was up to Trump, we wouldn't be in NATO. And we were basically pulled out of Afghanistan and Syria. And hopefully Iraq too, and just been like, you know what, screw it. We're tired of using our people and our resources to make sure you're safe. You deal with it. That's what I think Trump would do. But he surrounds himself with people who say, Mr. President, you can't do that. You'll leave that. It'll be a vacuum for ISIS to fill or for Iran to fill. And we have to do this, and we have to do that, and we have to do this, and we have to do that. Even in North Korea, you see it. And people focus on Trump's tough talk, but Reagan talked tough too. That's what you want. You want someone that your adversaries are freaked out, might do anything. And that's one possible benefit of Trump taking out Soleimani. He seemed awfully reserved. He seemed like he was allowing Iran to do, a little attack from them, we respond a little. Little attack from them, we don't respond. Little attack from them, we respond a little. Back and forth, and then it's like, bam, we take out one of your leaders. Now, if you're North Korea, for example, you might be thinking, crap. Maybe we better watch ourselves. And Trump's out there on Twitter like, man, we got 52 sites. We'll hit your cultural sites. He hasn't done it. But I don't mind him saying that. You want him striking fear because fear is deterrence. If your enemy thinks you're Barack Obama and you could just kill a bunch of people in the embassy and he'll just say, oh, whatever, we'll send you pallets of cash, then they'll keep pushing and pushing. If they think you're a maniac that'll personally take them out, not just their military or their troops, but actually come at the leadership personally, then maybe you're more willing to negotiate. That doesn't mean that that's going to be the effect of what Trump did. I don't know. I'm admitting that. But that's one possible effect of it. It's funny, and someone said this, I can't take credit for this, but this is something that's absolutely true, that's been true about Trump's entire presidency. The people that hate Trump basically look at the specifics of what he's saying and freak out about it. The people that like or support Trump kind of take the general nature of what Trump's saying. So when Trump says there are good people on both sides of Charlottesville, but we condemn racism, bigotry, and the KKK and stuff like that, the left, the people that hate Trump are like, we didn't see any good people, therefore you like Nazis. And the people that support Trump's like, look, we know what he was saying. There are a-holes on both sides. There are people on both sides that are good, that want the statue to stay up and want the statue down. We understood that. We knew what was going on, particularly because he specifically denounced the KKK, neo-Nazis, bigotry, racism, in all three of the speeches that he gave. The first one, he didn't use them by name, but he did denounce racism and bigotry. So, I don't think that he's a world police. I don't think that's what he's shown. I think his rhetoric is bombastic, and it's strategic. It's for a reason. But I would rather have someone who's a blowhard, who looks like a psychopath. He could take those slings and arrows. He could look like that, and people could say, what a psycho. If that means less conflict, if that means countries are like, whoa, we're not going to mess with them, that's fine. That's exactly the type of leadership I want. I prefer that to and I go back. Gary Kasparov, former chess champion from Russia. His tweet after Trump's response was, and I don't think he's a Trump supporter by any means, he said, this is the dangers of the policy of appeasement. When you let bullies push you around, this is what happens. Now, again, let me just talk to the other side for a minute. I'm not saying we should have been in Iraq. I'm not saying that there aren't interests in the United States that have pushed towards conflict with Iran. That's true. Both of those are true. But Trump was president at the time. Our embassy was attacked. He had to do something. Right? Like, I'm sick and tired of this. Oh, the U.S. is the great Satan. They do all this evil crap. And therefore, Iran's totally justified in attacking the United States. Any country or any group's justified in attacking the U.S. because the U.S. has done all these historical evils. And yes, you can point to historic things that the U.S. has done. But like I said on my last live stream, you can do that with any country, with any group. Just because you cheat on your wife and have a kid with someone else doesn't mean that you can say, well, I'm not going to pay child support for that kid that I had because it was out of a corrupt action. I should have never cheated on my wife. Therefore, I'm just not going to deal with it. Regardless of what you think of whether or not we should have an embassy in Iraq or we should be there militaristically, it was attacked. Now, you might say, like me, I do think that maybe we could use this as an opportunity to pull out of Iraq. Bring our troops home. We have enough problems here. Put them at the southern border. But Trump had to do some sort of response. I leave it up to you whether or not this was the correct one. Now, what is going on with this attack in Iran? So, as I was getting to, a lot of people are saying, because if you read between the lines, that they basically chose not to attack the most, how to put this, the most precarious U.S. base in Iraq, the one closest to them that could have had possibly the most casualties. And it turns out there were seemingly no U.S. casualties and possibly no Iraqi casualties as well. It could be that this was a face-saving measure by the leadership of Iran. I know this sucks to think about as someone in the United States or someone in the Western world. But regardless, and I have no love for the leadership of Iran. I think they're terrible. Outside of just a global political scale, just how they treat their people is horrendous. And that's not propaganda, despite what a lot of the Trump haters would have you believe. It's a bad place. They kill people for, they beat women who were raped. They, stone adulterers. They throw gay people off buildings. That stuff's true. They force women to wear garbage bags because they don't want them to have individual identity. They want to treat them like property. It's not a good place, right? But even then, right, you have to understand, I don't believe this narrative that's coming out, where you saw these people mourning the death of Soleimani, the narrative that was coming out. Well, of course, they're all out there because they were threatened if they didn't go out. There's probably some of that. There's some keeping up, with the Joneses, where you don't want to get on a list where it's like, hey, this person seemed like they were happy Soleimani died. You don't want to be in that. But I do think that there's probably a legitimate amount of people that looked at this. They have national pride, and they looked at this person as a war hero. Now, he was like a terrorist scumbag, but to them, they're not getting the information me or you are getting. All they know is our country's good, and this guy was one of the leaders of our country, and he fought for our country. That's all they know. And so there was probably general mourning of that. Those people, the leadership of Iran, regardless of if they're evil or not, and they're like that, take that out of it. Just strategically, they have to appease their own people. Our country's nuts. If someone took out Trump, there would be a lot of people that would celebrate, which is disgusting and horrible. But go back to like Obama. I did not like Obama at all. Despised Obama. If he would have been assassinated by another country and they would have been like, yeah, we did it, I'd have been like, oh, something needs to happen. It would have united our country. Now, I'm not saying that that's exactly what happened in Iran, but you can understand Iran's leadership, even if they're scared to death, even if they're like, holy cow, we don't want to push Trump anymore, or the United States anymore. You can understand how they can't come out and say that. They just can't. They would look so weak to their people back home, they would lose all authority. So they have to beat their chest and say, oh man, we're not afraid. You can't do anything to us. We're going to retaliate and you can't do anything. So what would it look like if secretly you're trying to de-escalate, but overtly you need to show a position of strength? It would look like what we saw tonight. That's what it would look like. You would launch a counterattack. You would pick a target that you knew would kind of signify to your opponent, we're just kind of rattling sabers here. And then you would go home and you would tell your people like they reported, yeah, we killed U.S. servicemen. They'll learn not to mess with us. Now they're frightened. Right, they have to look tough. Now, I'm not saying that's definitely what happened. I don't know. And unfortunately, we don't have a media or an intel agency we could trust. But from what we can see, it looks like that's a possible scenario. That would be the best case scenario. My hope is, and this is someone who's hoping not just for Trump or the betterment of the person I supported, but also for the betterment of our country, for the betterment of our service people, and innocent people around the world. I always want to see war averted if possible. And so hopefully that's the best case scenario. That they're saving face, and this will lead to some sort of negotiation where they can go to their people and say, Trump came to the table after he realized we could attack their troops and there's nothing he could do. Fine, whatever. I don't care. We should not be so petty as to then have it be like, oh, we won't leave you talk crap. So if that's what they got to do, and that's what leads to the de-escalation, that would be great. I think that's what we should do. A buddy of mine, I agree with this. On Twitter, I haven't talked to him about this. I'll probably call him here this week, but he suggests that if politically what would be smart for Trump to do would say, okay, they retaliated. It was kind of not that big. Now we're going to take the case to Congress. Let's leave Congress vote on what we should do. And then watch all the Trump haters explain why Iran's this great place or explain what they want to explain. It's not a bad plan. But politics aside, that's the least thing on my mind at this point. Hopefully, cooler heads prevail, you know. But one thing I do want to say is, again, I'm talking about the well-intended people. The people that criticized Obama on the left and thought he was a warmonger. One of the things I would say to I can't get any of them on to talk. I wish I could. But one of the things I would say to them is, if Iran's this totally reasonable place, why was their leadership coming out today saying, by the way, if you respond, the next attack will be Israel and Dubai? Well, if it's just America's the great Satan, why seek out other targets? Maybe Israel, you can make a case for being allied with the United States. Dubai? You know, so who knows? I'm hoping things work out. A couple other things I want to talk about in this before I move on to another topic. Don't forget, Obama sent the very people that are attacking our embassy and launching rockets now, regardless of why, regardless if you think it's a justified retaliation or not, but the people arming or aiming weapons at U.S. service member now were given huge sums of money by the Obama administration. They admitted at the time, John Kerry admitted as Secretary of State, that they understood that some of that money would go to organizations that Obama's administration himself had designated as terrorist organizations. I said at the time, if you have if your family or friend in service, how does it make you feel to know that they're now facing more armed adversaries because of Obama? Now, I have no problem with Obama or Trump or Bush or Jimmy Carter or anyone trying to avert war and trying to have dialogue with people that are our enemies. But arming them, sending them money like that, and I'm sorry, I don't buy this left argument, oh, but that was money that was owed through a court order that was for decades old war bills that we owed. Garbage. That makes no sense whatsoever to arm your enemies like that. So it becomes like, why did we give them? I mean, imagine if Trump did this. Remember, Trump took a picture with, had a debate with this YouTuber Destiny, left-wing personality. He was incensed that Trump took a picture with Kim Jong-un. Oh, that lent him legitimacy on the international stage. What a terrible thing to do. Imagine instead of a picture, Trump would have been like, by the way, here's $150 billion in pallets of cash in the middle of the night. And then things were cool for 5-6 years. Oh, well, Kim Jong-un just kind of doing his own thing. Then all of a sudden, 6 years from now, they're attacking a U.S. embassy. How does that make you feel? You don't think the left, the CNNs, the New York Times wouldn't go nuts? There it is. Trump gave money to arm a madman dictator. Now they're attacking our interests. I understand the impetus of someone if you're legitimately trying to avoid war and you have a problem with kind of the war state, the intel community. I have a huge problem with that. Again, Ron Paul supporter. But you also have to talk about the dangers of appeasement. And you have to talk about not just saying, see, Ron Paul was just like, just pull out of this mess. That I get. Let's give Iran a ton of money? Makes no sense. So that just made, I don't understand why, of course, because the left controls the narrative, they'll spin this as, oh, it's just Trump, it's Trump, he's terrible, it's Trump. But Obama armed our enemies. He did. The last thing I want to talk about, and maybe no one will have an interest in this but me, but it's worth talking about because a lot of these same... Oh, two more things I want to say. The first, it's the bigger point, which is the hypocrisy. I mean, it goes without saying. You don't need me to tell you this. The people, 95% of the people that are against Trump on this, the Joe Bidens, the Bernie Sanders, the Tulsi Gabbards, well, let's leave Tulsi out for now. Everyone on CNN, the MSNBC crowd, the New York Times crowd, all of those people are full of it. They would cheer for ISIS over Trump. They'd cheer for MS-13 over Trump. They'll certainly cheer for Iran over Trump. Anything they could use to go after Trump, they'll use. They didn't give two hoots when Obama was doing the same kind of crap, except worse, in Libya, in Yemen, in Syria. Didn't care. They didn't care when Obama was drone striking a U.S. citizen without a trial. Didn't care at all. They didn't care when they pushed false information at the behest, propaganda at the behest of the intel community to smear Trump, to spy on Trump, to push Trump to a conflict with Russia and with Syria. They didn't care at all. They cheered it on. They didn't care. In fact, were against when Trump tried de-escalation. Make no mistake, you could have said, I don't like the way Trump's de-escalating from Syria. I don't like his suggestion on Afghanistan. That's not how these people put it. They didn't talk specifics. They said, oh, we can't pull out. Bernie Sanders, great man of peace, right? He's out there, Donald Trump escalated this. This is terrible. He's ending us in another warlike situation. Right? That's Bernie tonight. He said a month and a half ago, I was on here saying Bernie Sanders, who's supposed to be this big man of peace, right? He said that the worst foreign policy decision he'd ever seen was Trump saying he wanted to pull out of Syria because there would be genocide of the Kurds. There's your big peace man saying we need to have never-ending troop presence, world police in Syria. But now, all of a sudden now, all of you people on the left that cheered for the intel agency, that said they're always right, we have to listen to them. Can you believe Trump doesn't trust them? All of you people, shut your mouth. You don't have word one. You have no credibility whatsoever to complain about Trump doing this. None. And by any objective measure, what Trump did here was far more justified, even if you disagree with it, than what we did in Libya under Obama, than what we were doing in Syria, arming terrorists that were killing Syrian civilians. Yeah, let's see you, Div. Thanks, man. Yeah, Morgus, I get you. It is a racket. So they can just shut up. Now, Tulsi. This is what I wanted to get to specifically. She seemed to be a reasonable voice, even not as vocal as she should have been with Obama, but at least she was trying to de-escalate the Syrian situation in Syria. She talked to Assad, she got smeared for it, etc. I could forgive her for not being as vocal as she should have been while Obama was there, because she's in the same party. It speaks to a lack of strength of character, but I understand strategically, politically, why she wouldn't want to come out to someone like Obama, who was so popular on the left. Okay? Her claims, I find her to be, she was someone, again, don't take my word for it. Go back and check out my videos at the beginning of the Democrat primary season. I said, who do I like? Yang, Tulsi. Not that I would probably vote for either of them, but they were my two most acceptable choices for the Democratic Party. Tulsi's quickly becoming one of my least favorite people. And it's not because I woke up and realized, oh, she's this social justice warrior. I knew that. But I at least favored her non-interventionist policy. She criticized these regime change wars. And I was like, I can get behind that. But what she has shown is that she is totally willing to listen to the intel agency, to listen to the warmongers and the neolibs in the Democratic Party, 100% willing to go along with their racket when it was against Trump and when she thought it was politically beneficial for her to do so. But then as soon as she perceives that there's a political benefit for her to take the opposite stance, she does. It's hypocritical and it's disgusting. So for example, what do I mean? Never forget, even though she voted present on the impeachment, she came out and said after the transcript was released, she said, I don't think there's enough here to warrant an impeachment investigation. Then after the Democratic media and other Democratic candidates came after her, oh, she doesn't hate Trump enough. Was she principled? Did she stand by her principles? No, she caved in and said, oh, it's our duty to have an impeachment investigation. The same people that smeared her, the same intel people, the same media people that smeared her. And remember she came out and said about Hillary, when Hillary Clinton said she was a stooge of Russia? Does that sound familiar? Anyone else ever had that accused of them? Oh yeah, that's what they did for 3 years with Trump. The same people. She came out and was like, how dare Hillary say this about me? But hey, when it was the intel agency lying about Trump, she was all for it. All for it. Let's have an impeachment investigation. When it was the same media people lying about Kavanaugh, she was all for it, saying we need another investigation into Kavanaugh. She cheered it on. She knew what it was. All of these Russiagate people, all of them knew. They knew. I said it. I can't tell you how many times I said this. Maybe if I get bored someday, I'll go back and I'll clip out every time I've said this. When I got to university in 2003, even though I was a conservative, when I was against the Iraq War, I had so many friends. Most of my college friends were left-leaning, liberals. We were against the Iraq War, right? After the Iraq War, what happened? The media came out and said, we're so sorry. We should have been more critical of the administration and the intel agents and their assessment. We should have asked more questions. We'll never let it happen again. We won't. Next time we'll be more diligent, said the media. How many times have I said on this channel, what happened to my friends on the left? What happened to that media? 15 years later, now not only are they still accepting everything the intel agencies say, they're telling me and you to question them hurts America. We can't even question them. And if Trump questions them, he should be impeached. Now that same crowd, as soon as the intel agency says something that seemingly supports a decision Trump made, that same crowd is out there saying, oh, this is terrible. Trump's a dictator. This is horrible. You did this, Tulsi. You did this, Bernie. You did this, MSNBC and CNN. You're the people that gaslit us for 3 years that we always have to trust the intel agency. So you don't get to say this wasn't a justified attack now. Shut your mouth, Tulsi. Now, I know this is the argument that people on the left will make because all of a sudden they're big patriots, they're big military supporters when they think it could shut someone up. They'll say, Tulsi served this country and you didn't. I respect Tulsi's service. I tip my cap to her. If I was in a room with her, I would criticize her for her decisions, but I would make sure damn well that she heard that I thought she served this country honorably, and I respect that. But my way of respecting the troops is, now hear me out, this is crazy, right? This is going to sound crazy. I treat them like they're normal people. Thank you for your service, but I'm not going to infantilize you and pretend, oh, if you serve the country, I can't disagree with you. That's crap. By the way, I work in home health care industry with people with disabilities. It's one of my biggest pet peeves. Someone has a disability. Oh, they're always right. Oh, they didn't mean it. No, that's not true. Here's a little secret about people with disabilities. Most of them want to be treated as normal as possible. Sure, if you have trouble walking or if you have trouble verbalizing, there are accommodations that need to be met. But mostly, you should try to treat people the same no matter what. I know, I feel the same with troop. Obviously, it's different. I'm not saying troops have this. I'm just saying, just because you did something great in life, I'll honor you by treating you like I'm not going to pretend, oh, I'll treat you different and won't say I disagree with you because you serve the country. Ridiculous. So, yeah, that's my feelings on Tulsi. So, all right, that's an hour on Iran. those of you at the beginning that were talking about the airplane, I guess we'll wait and see what's going on with it. The last thing I'll say is this. Listen, I don't know crap. This is such a complicated situation, but neither is anyone else, okay? Like, just be careful. A lot of times you see this stuff come across Twitter. Oh, 30 dead U.S. troops. That's it. Trump's going to bomb them back. Oh, wait, it turns out it was 0. Oh, but they killed Iraqis. They killed Iraqi service people, so Iraq's going to be feared. Oh, now Iraq comes out and says, I don't know what the truth is. You remember the letter came out? Oh, we're pulling out of Iraq. And then Esper came out and was like, nah, we're not. So, I mean, there's so much disinformation out there. Don't fly off and I know you all are good, but don't fly off the handle. I'll be guilty of it sometimes too. I'll say something, then it turns out not to be the case. But I really do try, and I think my track record speaks for itself. I try to be patient, and get as many facts as I can before reporting it. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Your guess is as good as mine. My hope is this decision works out, that it leads to de-escalation, that Iran, they're not going to, no scenario whatsoever would be Iran come out and say, we realize we're outmatched. We realize that Trump's a crazy person and we're not going to test him anymore. That's not going to happen. So if this could be the best possible scenario, they feel like they've retaliated. Now everyone feels brave and macho and they can sit down and say, this is how we're going to part ways. Hopefully that's what happens. But that's it with Iran. So, more fun topic to get to. How about the Golden Globes, right? Ricky Gervais. Now, one of the things I say on here all the time, and I truly believe this, the reason I talk about politics a lot, I don't know, I'm weirdly into it. I just am. I find it entertaining. But I also think that we're at a very important time in our country's history, and because there isn't a media that can trust, there's a vacuum for people like me and you that could be discussing the truth and our opinions, as opposed to just the one-sided corporate establishment garbage that you hear from the mainstream media. But one of my first loves is definitely comedy. I love it. At one point, I thought I wanted to be a stand-up comic. I used to do open mic and stuff. I never did much work on it. Never got paid a dime for doing comedy. But it's something that I really like. I particularly like stand-up comedy. It's just something... watching I used to have like old VHSs or old recordings of like Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy, Lenny Bruce, George Carlin, Bill Hicks, I love that stuff. And I always felt like even if comedy that I was making a point that I disagreed with, comedy's such an awesome way to make a point. I forget who said it, but inside every joke's a tiny revolution. And that's true. There's a reason why in Shakespeare, often the jester, the Joker, was the only character that could criticize the king, right? And that's true in real life as well. Because there's something about joking that allows you to make these points. And I'm willing to listen to comedy that makes fun of me or the groups that I belong in or the beliefs I have. I'm willing to listen to it. One of the big problems I have with comedy in the era of Trump is that it's all one-sided. I don't mind Trump jokes. In fact, I don't know why. I just thought the term was funny. I try not to swear often on this show, so I will hold back from saying it. But when Stephen Colbert said that Trump's mouth was Putin's sea holster, I thought that it was funny. Not that the joke was funny. It's just a funny word. I was like, it's kind of funny. Samantha Bee called Ivanka a feckless C word. Thought it was kind of funny. It wasn't some magnificent joke, but I don't mind. Make fun of Trump. Fine, no problem. The problem is that's what everyone does. And comedy to me should be edgy. And the same with all art, which comedy is a form of art. You want it to have meaning, you want it to be entertainment, but you also want it to be edgy to some extent. Not all the time. Everything in the entertainment world, whether it be comedy, whether it be music, whether it be film, it's all 95% of it, when it's dealing in politics, is anti-Trump, anti-conservative, anti-Christian, anti-Republican, anti-male, anti-white, right? It's just garbage. It's not brave. It's old. It's the same jokes over and over, just repackaged differently. that's what makes what makes it so frustrating to me is to see this happen in comedy. I mean, I talk about this situation often. One of my favorite comics of all time, and certainly one of my favorite living comics, is Norm Macdonald. Norm Macdonald, I don't think's a Trump supporter. I don't. He probably votes Democrat. It's hard to tell because he jokes a lot. He was doing this show called Last Comic Standing. For those of you who don't know, it's kind of like American Idol or something except with comedy. And so this guy comes on and does a bit. And he's a gay guy. And he basically does a bit saying, oh, the Christian Bible's stupid. I prefer Harry Potter, blah, blah, blah. And Roseanne Barr is one of the judges. She's like, I think it was great. This was funny, blah, blah, blah. And Norm Macdonald's like, I don't. And basically Norm's point was, you're in an audience in LA or wherever in California, in the entertainment industry. Everybody's already default anti-Christian, so you basically just pandered to the audience. He's like, had you told these jokes in a church? Okay, that's edgy, that's brave. But it's not brave to go to a room full of people that agree with you and say what they want to hear. That's not brave. And that's all the entertainment industry is now. They all claim they're so brave for just agreeing with each other. The first cracks we're seeing in that is comedy. Thank God. You're starting to see it. And you see it with all sorts of things. Like, this is just anecdotal, but I've heard people say this. Look at platforms with younger people. Not millennials, but the generation to follow. Places like TikTok. Tons of comedy that's anti-social justice warrior. Tons of comedy that's poking fun of the people that are poking fun of Trump or conservatives. Because young people, like, it's just nature. When you see the generation above you is all doing one thing, you rebel against it. The 80s, look at music. The 80s, you had like hair metal, fun-loving, drugs, rock and roll, blah, blah, blah. Then you had grunge in the 90s. That was kind of a reaction to that. It's what's happening with comedy. Young people are getting fed up with it, and as they should. I tell Republicans, they don't listen to me. The Republican Party never listens to me. They ought to hire me to be the point man to get demographics that they don't reach, such as inner city demographics, women, single women particularly, young people. This is what I tell. Here's the case for not voting Democrat if you're a young person. I've been young. I'm getting old now. I got a little gray beards going on. Right? I'm youngish. I remember what it was like to be in high school. I did stupid things. I said offensive things. I told bad jokes. I don't want that ruining my life when it comes out. And maybe someone will tell, I'll be running for office someday and jokes I told in the past will come out. I don't care. Because you know what I'm concerned about the most? That I'm not a hypocrite. I defended Ralph Northam for the blackface. I defended, what's her name? Kathy Griffin for the severed head thing. Even on the left, I'm defending comedy. Always. Even terrible jokes like the blackface thing Ralph Northam did. I defended Trudeau. I don't want to see any of them lose their jobs over that stuff. And I don't like Kathy Griffin or Ralph Northam or Trudeau, right? So as long as I could look myself in the mirror, I'll be happy. I don't care if they bring up jokes I said in the past. But why are we reaching out to young people saying that? Do you like having fun? You like telling jokes? Would you like the rest of your life being worried about that tweet you sent when you were 14 years old? If so, vote Democrat. If not, if you'd like to have a life where it's okay to joke and have fun, and you don't have to walk on eggshells your entire life, then don't vote Democrat. Vote Republican would be the case I'd make. But of course, the Republican Party doesn't listen to me. So where am I going with all this? With the actual, professional comics now, you're starting to see it. You saw it with Jerry Seinfeld. You saw it with Chris Rock when they were saying, we won't go on college campuses anymore. It's too nuts. The social justice stuff's too much. They won't do it. You saw it with Kevin Hart. He learned the hard way, didn't he? Dave Chappelle, Ricky Gervais. Monty Python crowds, you're starting to see it. Terry Gilliam. You saw it with John Cleese. Was it John Cleese? I think it was John Cleese. You're starting to see it. They're going to pick up on it first because no matter what their political allegiances are, most good, serious comics that do it for a living, most of them understand Free speech is paramount. It is the biggest issue. Even if you hear a comic that you hate, like, let me tell you a comic I like. I like this guy, Doug Stanhope. Doug Stanhope's one of the most offensive comedians you'll ever hear. You know, like, for example, the last special of his I listened to, he was talking about ISIS, and he was like, yeah, he really hates ISIS, and he heard that ISIS particularly is targeting disenfranchised young people that feel that the world's left them behind. And the reason he hates ISIS is because that's his audience. He feels like ISIS is horning it. He's got a whole bit about it. But, I mean, it's pretty offensive. And it gets way worse than that, trust me. Doug Stanhope had this huge bit, and I think Bill Burr, I've heard say this as well, where they're talking about Dane Cook. And Dane Cook was considered, it was, you know, he blew up really huge, and then it became cool to hate Dane Cook. You know, I thought some of Dane Cook's stuff was funny, but I was never really into him. Anyways, it became cool to bag on Dane Cook. And I remember hearing stand-up say, like, listen, you don't understand, you average person at home that's not a comic. When you come up to me after a set and you're like, yeah, I like edgy comedy like you and not this crap like Dane Cook. He's like, regardless of what I think about Dane Cook, Louis C.K. also defended Dane Cook in this manner. Regardless of what I think about the success of Dane Cook's material or if he's a hack or whatever, he's still out there doing it. And there is a camaraderie in that we're all comics. Even if you're the staunchest Trump supporter and you're a comedian and you see funny anti-Trump comics, you respect that. It's the craft. It's the idea of free speech. Every good comic knows this. That's why, for example, for those of you who don't know history, Lenny Bruce was this comedian. He used to get busted for obscenity laws all the time. And at that point, it was the religious right doing it. He made fun of the Catholic Church. There would actually be sheriffs that would come to his show because they knew the bit he would do. And they knew about, you know, X number of minutes in, he would start saying offensive stuff about the Catholic Church, swearing, and they'd handcuff him right there and take him in. Several times he was arrested. It was a big point of admiration amongst the comic community that they all backed him. This is art. This is free speech. You can't arrest people for this. Now, it's also true, I would guess, that most stand-up comics, like most people that get into entertainment or art and that type of stuff, are probably tending to be more liberal. So they probably tend not to vote Republican, and most probably don't really like Trump. Such as Dave Chappelle, Ricky Gervais. That's fine. But they're starting to understand that the bigger threat to them and their craft isn't Trump. It's the left. That's why you have to give it to Dave Chappelle, Ricky Gervais, right? Because not only are they going against the prevailing orthodoxy of everyone in their industry, which is brave, but they're probably also going knowingly criticizing people that they're more closely politically aligned with. You really think, I mean, watch Dave Chappelle's stand-up. There's, on Netflix, his last one, there, for whatever reason, this is strange, I watched it when it first came out, and then I saw they had an appendix to it. And it's basically just Dave Chappelle answering audience questions. And he spends 5 minutes talking about what we need to do to stop Trump from being elected. And he talks about Obama and how much Obama meant to him. Okay. And that's something for you Trump supporters and Republicans to remember, right? When you hear Ricky Gervais or Chappelle, they don't agree with you as far as your politics. But that's okay. They understand there's a more fundamental issue. That's your right to speak. It's your right to laugh. It's your right to make fun of something. That's more fundamental. But don't make the mistake of saying, you know, woo, Ricky Gervais, I agree with everything he says. Because you probably don't when you start to hear his politics. You know? But that's okay. So, that's a big, long introduction, 15 minutes. What happened at the Golden Globes? I mean, Ricky Gervais was hosting it. What was it? His fourth time hosting? I don't follow these shows ever. I really don't care. At all. And Ricky Gervais said what not every, but what the vast majority of us, regardless Republican or Democrat, think. We're sick and tired of hearing the most privileged people in the world tell us how terrible we are and how privileged we are. We're tired of it. The hypocrisy is so disgusting. I don't know, like, I can't even put it into words. It's everything. Hollywood. These politicians. Now look, the right does it too. Let me be fair. Which is judging you for things that they themselves do worse. You remember you used to have, several times this story came up, where you'd have a preacher, really right-wing preacher that would be going off about anti-homosexuality and drug use and, blah, 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 blah. And then they'd find him doing meth with a male hooker, That type of stuff. It's everywhere. The media. Now, we could talk about it. We do all the time. Us peons. But we don't have a voice like Ricky Gervais. We're not at the Golden Globes. But Ricky Gervais was. And he told them to their face, in front of national TV, exactly what we're all thinking. And it was amazing. Now, I have said this about people like Kanye West and others. Like, it's cool when you have someone that's a celebrity that kind of thinks like you do, or is putting out a point that you have. But, that shouldn't be the end-all be-all. Thanks, Modus. Yeah, take it easy. It's not that Ricky Gervais is a celebrity that made this so amazing. It's that he did it at their event where they're applauding themselves on the back, and he did it right in front of their face. And they didn't know what to do. You hear stories about like Tom Cruise or Michael Jackson. Johnny Depp, now you're hearing it. That just became these super weird, eccentric, and you're like, how did this happen? And one of the theories is, and this, I would agree with this, is that when you live your entire life, since you were a kid, with people being like, you're special, you're the greatest, everything you say is right, you're the best, you're the greatest, oh man, what's your take on this? Yep, whatever it is, you're the greatest. Oh, you need to speak out more on social issues. Yep, everything you say is right, you're the best. Oh, yeah. It starts to screw with your brain. You need someone to keep you humble. That's why I got married. My wife tells me all the time. All of my faults. But it's good. That's what Hollywood is. They sit around and they pat themselves on the back. They don't know anything. The hypocrisies are, some of them are so astounding, it defies belief. Like, let's take one. Over 100 people in Hollywood signed a petition to drop the charges against Roman Polanski, who drugged and then anally raped a 13-year-old girl. Whoopi Goldberg said on The View that this wasn't rape, and she's one of the people that signed that petition. This is some of the same people, the exact same people that will call you, the average person 9 to 5 working, misogynist, part of the patriarchy, you're not erudite enough, you have a problem with women. Meanwhile, when they have one of their own that's drugging and anally raping a 13-year-old girl, no problem. He should be let go. He's talented. He's one of us. They lecture you about your light bulbs while they fly in private jets. They lecture you about needing to leave people in the country while they live in gated communities. They lecture you about not wanting firearms while they have armed guards. They talk about how it's immoral to be rich, like the Bernie Sanders types of the world, while they're more wealthy than you'll ever be. It's everything. And they don't know anything. That's not to say that an individual might not be intelligent on specific things, but the actual profession of acting or being an entertainer does not impart any knowledge to you whatsoever about anything political. None. You could be knowledgeable and be an actor or an actress, But that's not because you're an actor or an actress. Yet they all act like just because they have this audience that somehow they're well informed. It's not just Hollywood. Look at Colin Kaepernick. Look at LeBron James in the NBA. Your Popoviches and Steve Kerrs. Steph Curry. Look at all them. They don't know what they're talking about. They just know what to say to get applause. They know what they're supposed to say. And you hear me say that all the time. I said that in this video earlier, right? I know look, people, thank you so much for those of you that tune into me. It means more than you can imagine. It really does. But I have people say to me a lot, why isn't your channel bigger? Like, you know what would make my channel bigger? There's certainly real things that I could be doing that I'm failing at. I get that. But here's one of the easy things I could do to make my channel big. I could just be totally Trump, rah, rah, rah. Every Democrat's stupid. I could be that. And I would have more supporters. I know that. When I ran for Congress in District 12 of Pennsylvania, I know that I could have just said, life begins at conception, that's my take on abortion, no gay marriage, and I would have got way more support. But I didn't. Because I can't lie to myself. I wish I could. Well, I do, in certain ways I do lie to myself. I claim I'm handsome all the time. I don't know if that's true. But you see what I'm saying. These people, they're incapable. They assume they know everything. They don't have anyone to tell them. You don't know. You don't know. I knew what I should have said. It's easy to know what you should say. It's easy. It doesn't take a genius. You could walk into a crowd and within 10 minutes of just talking around, you can kind of get an idea. You know, for example, if I walk in, I'm going to a friend's house and he's like, oh yeah, a bunch of my friends are coming over and I've never met them. This happened to me. This really, he lives in Youngstown. I happen to be in this area my whole life, rural Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh sports fan. So you walk in, within 3 minutes you can tell these new friends, just by the conversations going on, oh, Cleveland fans. Now, if I want to endear myself to them, I could be like, Pittsburgh sucks, Cleveland's awesome. But you don't do that if you're a decent person. You can avoid confrontation when you can, if they're not into it. But you don't totally change who you are. You don't go Hillary Clinton and say, I got hot sauce in my purse, and start talking like you have some southern black accent. You don't do that crap. People that do that are just showing you that they have no morals. They have no integrity. They're chameleons. They'll become whatever they think you want to hear. All they want is your vote or your money or your time or your admiration. That's what they want. And they'll say whatever they think in a particular crowd that crowd wants to hear. So if you're in Hollywood or if you're in the NBA or any of these other entertainment industries, and 95% of you all think a certain way, then when you get a chance to speak as part of that group, you speak that way too. That's what happens. And then you mistakenly think you know what you're talking about. But you don't. You just know what to say. I would be one of the best anti-Trump people in the world. I know exactly what to say. And it would sound really good coming from me, right? Because here's what I have. I'm from a group that supposedly should like Trump. Rural Pennsylvania, flyover country, clinging to our guns and Bibles. So if I came out and said something like this, I'm sick of time. All my family does is watch Fox News. And, Trump is the most disgusting racist. You should hear now. My family just thinks it's cool to drop the N-word now. It disgusts me. I couldn't believe it. I had gay friends. They can't even come to my town anymore. I swear to you, under Obama, like when my gay friends would come to town, everything was totally cool. No one had a problem. Now, Trump, the last time a gay friend came out with me to the bar, he almost got beat up outside the bar. No, none of that's true, by the way. I'm just making all this up. But I could say that and they would be like, yes, yes, oh my God, yes, yes. And all the cops are racist around here, and I'm sick and tired. You have no idea. Just because I'm a white man, the benefits that I have. Sold. In the bag, man. I can do that crap as good as anyone. It's so easy to know what to say to get that kind of crowd to be on your side. Pathetic. It's pathetically easy. And again, it could work the other way, though the other side's not as influential. But I know how to suck up to just this super Trump fan that he could do no wrong. I wouldn't be talking about Trump spending deficit that I don't like. Wouldn't be talking about him bombing Syria. This whole Iran situation, I'd just be like, damn right, Trump should do whatever the hell he wants. But I didn't. That's not my take. Yeah, sorry, Locke. Yeah, no way I would ever be like that. By the way, here's the truth, if you really want to know. And I know this goes against kind of the prevailing narrative, but in rural Pennsylvania where I live, sure, there's some people that are racist. But I'm here to tell you right now, particularly with people my age and younger, no one cares. No one cares about your sexual identity. No one cares about your race. At all. That's it. They can say what they want, but that's the way it is that I've seen. So, yeah. So when they finally hear one of their... And here's the thing. I could say what I want. To, who I was there. I don't even know. I don't even know the names of the people. I can stand up to Meryl Streep and be like, hey, you suck. Stop self-aggrandizing. Stop pretending you're important or know something. You don't know crap. You're one of the most privileged people in the history of the world. Stop lecturing other people in privilege. And she'd be like, screw that guy. He's probably a Trump supporter. I don't care what he thinks. But Ricky Gervais is one of them. And he's talented, too. He's done that award show 3 times before and they liked him. Or how many times? I don't know the specifics. So when he says it, it's not that he's a celebrity. It's that he is who he is. He's one of them peripherally. And he's at their award show and he's saying it to their face. And his actions back up. He's probably a liberal dude. Certainly criticizes Christianity a lot. Big animal rights activist from what I've seen. Tired of the social justice-y crap, but who isn't? Well, except everyone else in Hollywood, I guess. And what he said was, I couldn't have said it better. I mean, and he had a lot of jokes. I'm not going to go through them all, but, when he got right down to it, he said, don't come up here and give some political speech. You don't know anything. Most of you have almost no schooling, he said, less than Greta Thunberg. Thank who you need to thank. Shut the F up. Get off the stage. Of course, no one listened to him. And then, of course, the media came out and whined. Oh, you ruined a good night. It was already depressing. And then he had to do this. Tough luck. There's nothing more contemptible than people lecturing you about your life that act in worse ways than you. I don't have a problem with someone being a billionaire. I don't. Or a multimillionaire. I don't have a problem with someone having the adoration. You hear this all the time. Can you believe we pay how much a football player gets paid compared to a teacher? That's ridiculous. Hey man, that's the market. If people enjoy entertainment and they want to pay to go watch Disney movies, I have no problem with it. That's fine. I think Leo DiCaprio or Johnny Depp or Meryl Streep, they make exactly what they should be making as far as that's what people are willing to pay. Good for them. I don't begrudge them in the least bit. But once those people start telling me how to live my life, and they're engaged in the exact same thing they're criticizing me with, except worse, I have no time of day for that. So it's not I hate them because they're rich. It's because their status enables them to commit the crimes or whatever they're accusing me or regular people of in a far worse way. They'll lecture us about our treatment of women. Well, everybody knew what was going on with Weinstein. Everybody knows. And do you think it ended with Weinstein? Do you really think it did? You don't think that that's rampant? That's just with Adult women. What about with children and the sexual abuse that goes on in Hollywood? But not a damn word. Those that do come out are like ostracized. Like there's some like Corey Feldman, Elijah Wood that came out and was like, yeah, sexual abuse of children is rampant in Hollywood. Well, not worth talking about. I remember a long time ago, this will be... Now I got my idea for my time capsule segment. I don't know what I'm going to call it, but the segment I do where I bring up something I wrote from years ago or a year ago. Maybe the next live stream I do, I'll do a section on this. I wrote, there was a law passed in Hollywood that to be an agent for a child star, you had to go through an FBI background check to make sure that you didn't have any convictions or anything for sexual crimes. When I wrote about this 2 years ago, the number of agents that had gone through with that was zero. Zero. Despite it being a law in the state of California. Where's the outrage? None. They're disgusting people. They have no sense of individuality. Now, this is generally speaking. I'm not saying this is every single person. But in general, that's what that profession leads to. There's nothing worse than an ignorant person who assumes they know more than you and an immoral person that assumes they're more moral than you. Nothing. You can handle immorality from the guy who's like, yeah, I'm immoral. You can handle ignorance from the person that says, yeah, I have no clue. I don't mind the person that makes way more than me and that wants to go to Aspen and own lake houses and they're just like, yeah, damn right. I worked my butt off or whatever. My dad gave me the money. I don't even care about that. But when you start telling me how you're a victim or somehow I'm privileged and you're not, oh, you're absolutely right, Dantique. Weinstein was caught. He was outed. They begrudgingly, just like Epstein, it was begrudging. Look, the Epstein story, I called it from day one. I knew what was going on. You think the FBI wanted to arrest Epstein? Absolutely not. They got out ahead of the story because think what you will of him, and there are things that he's done that I'm not the biggest fan of, but credit where it's due, Mike Cernovich pushed this. For those of you who don't know, Epstein, when he was basically given a slap on the wrist in 2009, part of the deal was that basically all the court records were sealed. And Mike Cernovich for years was out there pushing to have that unsealed because that's not common. That never happens. When you plead guilty to a crime, the rest of the world's able to see what the details of it was. But for some reason, Epstein got special treatment. So Cernovich was out there pushing this. Then the Miami Herald jumped on board with Cernovich's lawsuit. Everybody gives the Miami Herald the benefit because, far be it from the media to say that someone they despise like Mike Cernovich did something good, but he did. But anyways, the Miami Herald did as well. And they started to investigate and they found all this evidence that was going on of Epstein's corruption and they started running the stories and they knew that a critical point was going to be reached where the Miami Herald and Cernovich were going to break this story and people would say, what the hell is wrong with our FBI? Why are they letting this monster walk free? No, we all said that anyway. And you understand the power of this, right? Like, people say this to me all the time. Like, a story will break. Like, for example, the IG report on the FISA abuses. People like me, people that listen to me will be like, yeah, well, we knew this, so why is this news? It's news because it's now, you can't deny it. Remember that Shaggy song? Wasn't me. Caught you banging in the bedroom? Wasn't me. Right? Like, there's something about that. No matter what evidence you could put in someone's face, they're just like, no, not true. You're a conspiracy theorist. So when actual journalists are now out there saying, look, this is what Epstein did. Now the FBI can't say, oh no, this is just, there's no proof of anything. So they had to cover their tracks. So they charged him. It wasn't because they were doing their job or they wanted a child sex predator off the street. It was because they were about to be outed as the incompetent, corrupt buffoons that they are. So they arrested Epstein. Then they couldn't. Then he killed himself. Yeah. It's the same idea with Weinstein. When it actually, kudos to Ronan Farrow, though his stuff with Kavanaugh was crap, but the media knew. They all knew. The entertainment industry knew. They buried this. And then once Ronan Farrow made it public, they begrudgingly were like, I guess I gotta say something. Couldn't say it during the 2016 election, could they? Couldn't mention it, Weinstein or Epstein, the Clinton buddies. Couldn't mention it then, could they? Remember that woman on the hot mic from where CBS that got fired? Or that the footage was released? Where she admitted, I know Epstein killed himself. I had this story years ago and it got buried by CBS. Remember that? That's the truth. We know. It's the same with Weinstein. And others. There's others. It's not just those two. They knew it about Bill Clinton, too. They know. They don't care about women. They don't care about sexual assault. At all. At all. They care about their own gravitas. They care about their own power. They care about protecting the people that give them that power. So when Hollywood's up there lecturing, and what Gervais say? Epstein, your buddy, right? You had to take your own plane here because he's dead, huh? Or how about what he said? If ISIS had a streaming service, you'd be working. I mean, in front of Tim Cook from Apple. Accused him of operating slave shops. ABC, was it? Okay. Sorry, White Sitsman. Yeah. So, I mean, kudos to Ricky Gervais. I mean, to me, Dave Chappelle, if you go back and you watch the beginning of his most recent Netflix live stream, stand-up, he says, I'll do 2 impressions. And the brilliance of this is, I don't know how much Dave Chappelle means the first impression. I think it's a joke. He's kind of with it, but he sets the crowd up because he tells an anti-white joke, right? An anti-country joke. So he says, I'm going to do 2 impressions. The first impressions of the Founding Fathers. Hey, colorful word for black person. Did you finish that Constitution yet? Right? Audience eats it up. Social justice-y crap. Yep, making fun of the Founding Fathers, making fun of white people. Yep, got it, right? Then he says, now let me do my second impression. And he says something to the effect of like, I'll ruin your life for things you've done years ago and for bad jokes you told, and I'll scour and try to every tweet and go back through to high school and find anything I can to ruin your life. Who's that? And what's the audience yell? Trump! And he says, no, that's you, the audience. They don't get it. Gervais, it's telling these people right to their face how disgusting they are. They don't get it. There are a few that laughed. They knew what was up. They don't understand it all. It's very, it's a weird thing to watch. These people have no idea. The tide is turning, though, on this. It is. There are legitimate people out there that speak the truth, the world as they see it. Comedy is going to be the first of that. Before acting, before athletes, it'll be comedy. Because that's what they do. Most comedy, good comedy, is making fun of some sort of power, right? It's not funny. It's not as edgy or brave or funny to make fun of people that are way weaker than you, you know? You don't go around finding homeless people to make fun of. Make fun of your boss. That's something better to do. Yeah, Tom Hanks knew. Ray Romano knew. So they see it, they know, and some of them, picturing someone like Kevin Hart. And you're just like, what? I'm getting brought down for this? Or how about Chris Rock? Chris Rock was getting crap because he did a show back in the late 90s, and it had sketches. And one of his sketches was called, or it had to do with how to not get shot by police or not get hassled by police. And so he did one skit where it's just like, it's a black man. So the one skit, he's like driving and the cop's pulling over and he's like, blah, 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 yelling at the cop and he ends up getting shot. And then then he's like, here's how to do it the appropriate way. Yes, officer, here's my ID. Okay, we'll see you later. Right? It was just a joke on like, hey, don't be a crazy thug in front of the cops. That doesn't mean that he's saying, oh, there was never any violence against any black person from a cop. He's just saying, look, he's telling some truth in that joke. For that, in the 90s, he's getting crap. Well, and White Sits not only is comedy under attack, what's that woman's name? She had like the Netflix special, and she's challenging. She says comedy doesn't have to make you laugh. Comedy isn't designed to be funny. And she just stands up and she's like, I'm a lesbian, and life sucks, and people are mean to me. And it's not funny, and they're like, well, that's what comedy should be. It's because they're humorless. That section of the left is humorless. Now, not everyone. And that's what I say over and over again, right? This is what blows my mind about all the Democratic primary candidates. They all keep trying to get this crazy social justice warrior-y kind of vote. They're all running in that direction. There are plenty of people on the left that don't like Trump, traditional liberals that wouldn't vote Republican, that are disgusted by this crap. They want to laugh. They want to have fun. So yeah, they're definitely trying. They understand. Who has all the power? Who controls the public narrative? It's the establishment left. Or some people say it's not the left. Whatever. It's the establishment Democrat Party, the deep state. What did I say beginning talking about this? About the power of comedy. So of course they want to censor it. Just like this happens throughout history in our own country. They wanted to censor comic books in the 50s. They wanted to censor video games. They wanted to censor music. They want to censor comedy. Because they don't want their own ridiculousness to be pointed out to them. Yeah, Hannah Gadsby. Yeah, that's her name. Do I think we need a civil war to clean this up? No. I don't think we need violence. I think that you can see as evidenced by the Ricky Gervais thing. People are starting to wake up. So as I was saying, there are people that legitimately do have their own voice, like Ricky Gervais. But what you're going to start to see is there's another group of people, and they're lamentable, which are these people that are going to be entertainers that are going to start to see the tide is turning. It's going to happen in the next 10 years. They're going to start to realize, oh man, no one likes Hollywood. No one likes any of our actors and actresses. No one likes our preachiness. So now I'm going to come out and be Ricky Gervais. I'm going to be like him, be like, yeah, I was never on board with all the preachiness and stuff. It's the same way with this social justice-y crap right now. It started with some people that actually believed it. But most of them don't even know what to believe. They just know what they think people want to hear. And so as soon as the tide changes, they'll completely back off. They have no morals. They just want your entertainment dollar. That's it. They want your applause. They'll say what they think. They're actors. That's what they do. It's the same with the NBA. That's what makes it so disgusting. These people that are telling you how to live your life and what you're doing wrong, and that they're so great and moral, are literally just speaking because it financially benefits them to do so. That's it. Or culturally benefits them to do so. That's why LeBron could lecture you about how Trump's bad, guns are bad, police are bad, racism's bad, this country's bad. But as soon as it's China, what's LeBron have to say? Oh, China signs a big fat check for me, so I'm going to shut my mouth on China. I mean, the actors, They'll try. Some of them truly believe it. I mean, there will be a large group of them that stand by it. But you'll start to see more and more wake up and just be like, nah. Yeah, and I mean, that's exactly right. The way I always put it, white cis male, is this. The ideas of this establishment Democrat, the social justice, all of this crap, the Green New Deal type crap, all of these ideas are so bad that the only way that they can continue to be promulgated is by stifling any speech that goes against them. Anytime you see someone saying, we need to silence this person, we need to silence that person, I almost guarantee 99.9% of the time, that person is making arguments that they can't defend. That's why they want everyone silenced. They don't want you to be able to make fun of Hollywood because they know it's indefensible. Everything they do, it's such a startling hypocrisy. It's the culture we live in, from the entertainment industry to the media to academia to our politics, all of it is so perversely hypocritical, it almost defies belief. And it goes back to, who was it? I never remember what mass murdering maniac it was, Hitler or Stalin. But one of them, their people said, the bigger the lie, the more people believe it. And so you could be Bernie Sanders, who's never had a real job in your life, that has a third lake house, that flies first class everywhere, that drives a sports car around, and your whole spiel is decrying rich people. And it's taken serious. People were like, oh yeah, you could be Leo DiCaprio flying on a private jet to show up to climate things for a half an hour, talking about how the average working Joe's killing the environment. And no one seems to care. You could be Hollywood lecturing us about the treatment of women while you're working for Harvey Weinstein. It's the little things. Like, I don't care. You don't hear me do a lot of movies are being, like, we're talking about comedy being taken over by, instead of based on ability, it's based on the cultural Marxist characteristics. And, like, movies, you hear this a lot, like, they're getting feminized. Like the new Star Wars movies. I don't care. They can do what they want. I didn't watch them. Fine. But at least, if you're going to do that, if you're going to lecture us, right? If you're going to come out and you're going to be like, I'm going to use my art to tell this message of, Trump's America's bad, or conservatives are bad, or we need more feminism, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. You're going to lecture us. Fine. You do it. You have the right to do it. I'll choose not to watch it if I don't want. But here's the only thing. At least stand by your principles, right? Regardless of what it costs you. Don't be the new Star Wars movie that's like, oh, we have a lesbian kiss in our movie. But then you censor it in China. Don't be the Black Panther movie that you're going to celebrate how this was a historic moment. It's all about, Wakanda and, black superheroes and whatever. Which, by the way, is fine. And let me just say this. I have no problem. If you're a young black kid and finally you got a superhero that looks like you, that's awesome. Good for you. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. But then when you market the movie in China, you make sure to put masks on all the pictures of the posters and stuff because you know that black people don't sell well in China. That's it. If you want to get your moral high horse, don't be a blatant hypocrite immediately. That's not too much to ask. They can't even manage it. Don't lecture me, LeBron, Steve Kerr, Greg Popovich, Steph Curry, about the police in this country while you're silent about police in China shooting protesters. And yes, they have the right to say what they want. They have the right to do it. But I don't even understand why it's that hard. Like, it would be easy to be what does it cost you? Money. Power. That's what it costs. And that's how you know these people are hypocrites. Listen, I'm not a rich man. In fact, I'm a very poor man at this point. I'm behind on bills and whatever. I could forgive someone in my position maybe for selling out to get a bunch of money. It sucks. I haven't done it, but I understand that. But you're LeBron James. You're one of the wealthiest people in the history of the world ever. And you're willing to sell out any goodwill you might have towards this social justice idea against police brutality that you've been railing on for years. You're willing to sell that out just for some more money from China? That lets you know the character of that person. If a poor man sells out to put food on the table, that's one thing. If a man worth $1 billion sells out for a couple more million, I don't even know how to do the super chat. I think you have to have 1,000 subscribers. Maybe I'll try. I do have a Patreon and a PayPal thing that I'll try to bring up here. I have been. I'm not going to bring it up tonight. Whatever. I have a Patreon and PayPal. If you go to some of, not my last live stream, but the one before it, you can see my links to my Patreon and PayPal, Twitter, and things like that. I don't like asking for money. I know it's something I should do more, but it's neither here nor there. I'm not saying I'm poor as a cry for help. I'm just saying you can at least understand. Like one of my favorite jokes, Bill Hicks is one of my favorite comedians ever, and he talks about this. He's like, the idea of commercials. And he's like, why do celebrities do commercials? Why are you selling yourself so fake for a commercial to endorse some product that you have no interest in? You know, and he's making fun of Jay Leno. And he's like, the only person, and he's doing this in the early 90s. He's like, the only one you can forgive is Willie Nelson because he has tax troubles. He's singing about rolled gold pretzels. He's like, can't we pass a hat around and get, it's damn embarrassing to listen to this guy to sing about pretzels because he has tax problems. But there's truth in what Hicks is saying there, where it's like, look, you understand the poor guy, no problem. You do the commercial. The poor guy, you sell out a little, you know, one of my favorite bands, Ween. I saw an interview with them once. It was like, oh, you know, you've been this kind of like underground band for so long, you never sold out. How does that make you feel? And they were like, we wanted to sell out. We just couldn't. We still will sell out for large sums of money, you know. Yeah, I definitely, I should do the super chat. Maybe I'll look into it. I will. But, yeah, so I guess I'm rambling here a lot. But the point is this. Ricky Gervais, Dave Chappelle, you're going to see more come out. You're going to see more of these comedians. You're seeing the guys from Monty Python. You're seeing, you know, I said it, Johnny Rotten from the Sex Pistols. You know, one of the original punks. He came out right at the election of Trump, said the way to be punk now is to vote for Trump, because punk meant being anti-establishment, and the establishment is totally against Trump. It's not saying he endorses Trump's policies, it's just saying at a simplistic level, the establishment is anti-Trump. So if you're railing against the establishment, you're not cool if you're Antifa and you think you're some punk and you're listening to, you know, anti-flag or, you know, and you're siding with the establishment. It's just, it's stupidity. And so, you know, good for Ricky Gervais for dressing down the people. I look forward to it. I will. Thank you, White Smell. And yeah, that about wraps up what I had to say. So, talking specifically about my channel here. Anytime anyone would want to do a show with me, that's fine. I'm kicking around the idea of, I'm trying to do a live stream every Monday night and every Thursday. So I'll just be totally upfront with everyone here. It looks like there's going to be a change in my work situation. For those of you who don't know, I do home health care and I do block shifts. So when I go into work, I'm there 24/7. I get off at 11 o'clock, which is where I'm at now. So I could do stuff, but it makes it especially difficult to do it throughout the day. It looks like I might be losing a staff, so I'll be here much more often, which means my plan was to do a live stream every Monday night and every Thursday at noon. It looks like I'll be working Thursdays at noon for the foreseeable future, so that might change to Fridays at noon. I also have a medical situation in my family that might... I'm committed to doing videos. You'll still see me every week. And where I lack in doing the 5-minute videos that I used to be doing, I think I'm really trying to do, an hour, 2 hours. So for the couple of people that support me on Patreon, please, if you feel I'm not living up to my obligation, please let me know. I'll try my best. But I am trying, even aside from that, just to put content out. I understand the importance of being consistent and putting out consistent content, and I really am trying, but sometimes stuff comes along that's just unforeseeable. Look, I average working 70, 80 hours a week, so I'm sure those of you, work's work, the real world's the real world. Sometimes you gotta work, So yeah, that's where I'm at with that. I'm still trying to put out content though, so I might have to adjust my timing. I'm still gonna do 2 live streams a week at the minimum. So but anyways, now what I was getting to other than that is, I'm thinking of making one of those live streams not about politics. So it might be something more like we just did here with though it was a little politically with Hollywood or other stuff that just maybe is not related to politics at all. So I might test that out, 1 or 2 live streams. Please give me input if you like that or not. Whatever people think's the direction, I'll go with it. I'll still be doing the political stuff primarily. And I also am always looking for people to do videos with. I can't guarantee... I have a couple people that's kind of on backlist that we need to do some stuff. Here's the promise I can give you doing videos. It doesn't have to be about politics. It could be about whatever topic you would want. Even if you disagree with me, I'm not going to be a jerk about it. It could be live. You could show your face. You could use a pseudonym, whatever you want. If you're unhappy with the recording of it, I would take it down afterwards if you think maybe it could jeopardize your job or something like that. Though, understand, if it's live, it's live. People that see it. But yeah, and I might not agree with you, You might come on and be like, I really want to talk about the Iran situation and say something, and I'm like, well, I just disagree. But that's great. I think that makes for a better conversation when you don't totally agree with someone. So, yeah, if you or anyone you know would be interested in doing the show with me, please let me know. And the last thing I'll ask is, I do have Patreon. I do have PayPal. I'll bring it up. I feel like a schmuck. But, I'll bring it up. But if you donate to me, that's great. I really appreciate it. If you don't donate to me, that's also fine. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh, I won't be able to do my show if I don't get donations. That's not going to be the case whatsoever. If you want to help me and you can't donate, the best way to go about that would be liking and subscribing my stuff. And if you could recommend me to some other people, that would be fantastic as well. Again, I'm still trying to get to 1,000 YouTube subscribers. YouTube, right when I don't know, 6 months in me doing YouTube videos starting, they decided to change the rule that you can't do mobile live streams unless you have 1,000 subscribers. That's my Patreon account. Which is a bummer, because that was one of the things I really was looking forward to. I was running for Congress. I was going to all these Republican things. I thought, hey, I'll pull out the old iPhone and do some live streaming, and unfortunately, until I get to 1,000 subscribers, I can't do that. So that's something that I'm trying in the short term. Is my short-term goal is, so if you could recommend me to some other people, if you like my content. If not, that's fine too. But I really am trying to get out there. And another thing you could do to help, not just me, but to help people like me and just the idea in general of going against the establishment media, do your own videos. If you have your own channel or something, link it to me. If it's something that I support and I like, I'll definitely give a mention to it. I have a meager audience, obviously, but I think that that's something we should do as individuals. Even if we don't agree with everything, stick together, try to do our own content so we don't have to rely on media content. Subscribe to Raincat, the blue icon. Oh, okay, I'll check it out. But yeah, so thanks everyone for being here tonight. I don't talk about religion often or anything like that, but I do have a family member that's going through a tough time. So if you're the type of person that prays, or if you just want to send well wishes, it's something that they could really use. So kind of a bummer, but I'm optimistic. I think things will work out. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I'm going to get some sleep tonight, but I do really appreciate it more than you all will ever know. And yeah, look for me to be putting out more material soon. So it's been a lot of fun, everyone. Talk to you next time and have a good one.